I don't know, we're gonna try that. Make sure you're still working on this dude first, not just looking over your unit circle. Yep. I will. I haven't seen like who exactly is missing it because I haven't entered them because I just got them this morning, so I didn't know that you had it. So when do you have a specific time? I'm taking account. It'll be back in a second. Huh? So like tomorrow during lunch. Okay, Israel, Felix, Eli, Edith, Dahlia, Stephanie, Diego, Jamie Lynn, Sandy, Brandon, Brian, Juan Carlos, Martin, Nen, Kennedy, Giselle, Leo, Gustavo, Lirio, Tyler, Melanie, Lazaro, Jonathan, Messiah, Joanna, Kevin, Ehong, Christina, Johnny, Luis, Deanthea, Brian. We're back. It's blue, but it's back.
Yeah, we are transferring information. Monthly value of what?
Hey.
Then that's fine, no way, but you have to Okay, so let's start with like, you need your 190 cosine with your pi little. So when we go to 3 pi over 4, for a minute, okay, cosine is which one? And you just write that down. Okay, so some of them are just straight up. If you look at this first one, first, it's secant, so that's what was confusing because we have to think about cosine, and then so it's secant, cosine. So we're still looking at all those cosines, the averages, and we're going to write that down. Okay, now the other hard thing is 9 pi over 4. So if you look around the circle, the highest pi we have is 7, which means 9 is more than a full circle. So what you have to do is start by finding a coterminal angle by taking away pi or taking away the circle. So if you say 9 pi over 4 minus 2 pi, then like as a separate column, because you want this to have a fraction. So you're going to multiply times 4 to get 4, and say 8 pi. 9 minus 8 is 1 pi over 4. So that means this is actually the exact same as pi. So it makes sense when you're at 7. This would be another. Okay, so what we want is secant of pi over 4, but instead we're going to use cosine. So that's the reciprocal of secant. Pi over 4 cosine is 2 over 2. Move it. 2, and then subtract. Okay, so these ones, nice and easy, find it. One more complicated one, you got like crazy angle, secant. Okay, we're going to get started. I'll come pop over. I'm going to answer a couple questions on these, but for most of them, I'm just going to show you the answers and then we'll go over like 2 of them. Some of them are straight up just like, oh, it's cosine and it's an angle on my unit circle. I'm just having it memorized or looking it up. Other ones are going to be some angles that you might have to find a coterminal angle first, or if it's secant, you're going to have to maybe use cosine and then find the reciprocal and all of that good stuff. So this is what I ended up with for all of these. Does anyone have one
that they want us to talk about before we go on to our quadrant 1 unit circle quiz for today? Any takers? For one to talk about. Yep.
Letter H.
H. Okay, so for this last one, tangent. Okay, tangent is interesting because when you look around your unit circle, we know x is cosine and y is sine. Does anyone remember how we find tangent as we look around the unit circle, Jamie? Yep, tangent of theta is always y over x, or this sine over cosine, right? Okay, so if I look at pi over 2, I'm picturing it because we're starting to memorize our unit circle and get more familiar without looking every time. Pi over 2 is 90 degrees up top, and I'm thinking at that point on my circle it's 1 up, and so I'm at the point 0, 1, right? Okay, so then y is 1, x is 0, and that's weird because I cannot divide by 0, right? And so anytime I have a 0 on the denominator, it's actually going to be what we call undefined. So you probably saw in our problem set they said state the following trig functions, find the value of the trig functions if it's defined. Like usually it's going to be undefined when it's tangent or cotangent, and you end up with a 0 on the bottom. Okay? If 0 is on the top, you'd be fine. It would just be 0. But when it's on the bottom, it's undefined. Good question, Ned. Okay. So continue to practice these. These are straight up trig functions. I think you had a lot of them on your problem set that you can be looking at if you haven't already turned in your problem set. I don't know if the bucket made its way around. Did it pass around the whole? Can y'all pass it back to that table? And then if you haven't turned it in yet, make sure I have it by the end of the day so I can grade those and your quizzes that you took on Friday and get them back to you tomorrow so you can kind of see where you're at, because all those things obviously weren't on your progress report that you got today. All right, for now, remember today we decided we want to focus on making sure we feel really comfortable with quadrant 1 and can access that information without looking, either by thinking back through the triangles or whatever strategy you use to kind of familiar yourself with it and get it memorized. So I'm going to go ahead and pass these out for people to start filling out, but I'm going to give it to tables that have their yellow sheets away. So if you can put those away as soon as your table has it up. You can start, voices off. You are starting at 0 and going up to the y-axis right here in the quadrant 1. I want degrees, radians, and the point. I do not need for this one 360, because that would be like after we do all the quadrants, we work our way back to 360, right? Like I just need 0 here through up to quadrant 1. So I'm going to give to people that are ready, good to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to give you 2 minutes from the time I get all these out. What? If we can do the lesson quickly today, we're a little bit behind because that took us a little longer at the end of class today. If not, you just schedule a time with me. But then all of them will FA each other. So tomorrow will be harder because you have to do 2 quadrants. But if you do better, it'll FA it.
Oh no.
Any other problem sets around town? We good?
Yeah, you
UH downtown? UHD? mean, if you know more of it and you'd like to just keep going to kind of like quiz yourself right now while you're sitting there, you can, but we're just going to check the first one. Take about 30 more seconds, so fill out as much as you can. In degrees, in radians, and the points. Yep. But not the full circle like this part. Okay, finish up what you got. I'm going to have you go ahead and put any pencils, or if you used a pen, the pen that you used underneath your chair or away so they're not on tables, and get out a different colored pen, or if you need one, raise your hand and I have lots of colored markers that you can use to check, but it should be different than the one that's on there. Anybody else? Pencils all the way on the floor, away somewhere else. Anyone else? Okay, so here's how this is going to work. You're going to get basically either 3 little check marks or a mix of checks and X's or X's for the degrees, the radians, and the point at each of these kind of legs around, okay? So starting with this first one, if we're starting closed, that's 0 degrees, 0 radians, and the point is 0, 1. So that's check, 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 or maybe little X's if you just like were confused by the zeros or whatever. Huh? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Miss Cotto.
Written in so many times. $5. Oh man, struggling. Okay, next up, just keeping you on your toes. Making sure y'all, you don't have toes? Oh, they said I don't have them. No? Okay, next up, we've got pi over 6, 30 degrees is root 3 over 2, comma 1/2. So check for pi over 6, check for 30, check for if you have that point. Again, if you didn't like straight up memorize it, remember you can kind of redraw the triangles and figure things out as well. Next one, voices off so I can get through this kind of quickly. Pi over 4, 45 degrees is root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. Check, check, check. If you got those 3, we should be at a total of 9 possible checks and minus however many you've got little X's for. Okay, up here we've got pi over 3 is 60 degrees, which is 1/2, comma, root 3 over 2. Check, check, check. And last but not least, straight up is splitting pi in half, so pi over 2 is 90 degrees, and that is the point, here's the one that I was looking for, 0, 1, because you go up 1, check, check, check. So that is a total, if you look at 15 checks, but for the most part, a lot of us are going to have a lot of them, so here's how I want you to write your score. Listen carefully. All I want you to do is, let's say you missed this one because you thought it was pi over 3 and you thought it was 60 degrees or something. Maybe you have those 2 little X's. If you were that person, you're just going to write -2 right here. I just want to know how many you missed minus that many, and I just have little ranges of what your score is going to be based off of how many you missed, okay? Hopefully, if y'all can stick with me and we can get through class quickly, you'll notice the back is blank. I will pass these back to you, and in the last 2 minutes, if you want to take another retake just right now in class, we'll do that. If not, you can just find me at any point, or you can FA, use tomorrow's to FA. So tomorrow, we will be doing quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, so the entire top all the way to 180 degrees, or pi. That will be a chance to FA this one, but it's 2 quadrants, so it's a little bit harder. So if you'd like to take a retake of this one to get at least a 10 in there, if you're worried about it, then you can. Quadrant 1, 2, and 3 will be Wednesday, the whole thing Thursday, and then just retakes all the way through the unit exam. You just got a new problem set, okay? I'm gonna, as I'm talking about this, start walking around and grabbing these. You just got a new problem set, and you should have turned in your problem set for today. If you haven't done that, please make sure I get it by the end of the day. On Friday, you also have a quiz, your second quiz. So I'll be getting your graded quizzes back to you tomorrow, and then that quiz will be like a mini version of the unit exam, which will come early next week on Tuesday, okay? Any questions about upcoming things in pre-cal? Nope. Okay, so today, voices off. Trying to get y'all to where some of y'all can take retakes. So I know not all of you might need to take one, but please, if you could try to stick with me so we can cruise, then I can give you that time in class, and you won't have to find me later. Today we are not really learning anything new the way I've structured the lessons. It's using the unit circle. We're just going to take a day to sit in all the stuff we've learned and kind of practice some harder problems where they basically ask you to extend and evaluate trig functions based off of patterns in the 4 quadrants. So, you know, a lot of times on unit exams and quizzes, they love those 1, 2, 3 things where it's like 1 and 2, 2 and 3, all of the above, none of the above, all those things. And they're always kind of these statements that just talk in general about what we're learning, where something about like sine and cosine, as one of them gets bigger, what would be happening to the other, and things like that. So we're going to take a day and just kind of hang out with examining the unit circle and see what we can come up with. So I'm not going to be talking and modeling problems a lot. It's going to be more y'all working together to figure it out, and a lot of y'all sharing out, and anyone at your table being ready to kind of share what you came up with. Okay, so take a look right here first. Underneath the do first, we're going to start with this one problem for y'all to discuss and then come and share out. So can I get someone first to read what it says that is true, where it says if sine? Can I get someone to read right there before I let you turn and talk in your groups? Someone, any takers? Kennedy, go for it. Okay, so we have 2 clues, one about sine, one about cosine. It should be enough information for us to figure out whether each of these angles that is true or not true, and we want to circle the ones that it's true for. Could be one of the angles, it could be more than one, it could be none of the angles. I want you to turn and talk with your neighbors to try to figure out which ones. And again, the goal is not just to get the answer, the goal is to be able to explain when we come back and agree and disagree with each other. I agree with you, but I think there's this other one also because blah, 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 okay? So be ready to come back and discuss. I'm going to give you a minute or 2 to talk about it. So go ahead and work together, see what you can figure out. Go. Yep. You need an extra notes? Okay. Okay, so what do we know about sine and cosine?
Yeah, A.
What do we know about sine and cosine that you can't figure out? Okay, so when something's bigger than 0, it tells us something about the number. It's all positive. So we know that sine has to be, not this, not these, but sine has to be positive. And sine is what? Y. So the y at our angle has to be positive. That's one thing we know. Okay, so right, y is positive. Okay, now look at cosine. Cosine is x, and it's less than 0, so that means x has to be negative. So we're looking at an angle where x is going to be negative, but our y is going to be positive. So let's think, even without looking at the integral, if you're just plotting points, where is y positive? Up here, right? Okay, whereas cosine, or sorry, x negative. Back here, right? Which means the only place that both it's happening is in quadrant 2, because cosine is negative and y is positive, right? Okay, so we know we're in quadrant 2, and so basically we're looking for any angles that fall because we have a right positive negative. So look closely at them. Make sure you know where they all are and see what you can figure out. Few more seconds. Good conversations. I'm hearing good things. I see some groups that have the same thing. Some that have slightly different. Interesting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. We're back. Voices off. I'm going to pick on someone. When they're sharing, I really want y'all to listen in because I want you to agree or disagree or agree but say, I also think there's this other one that you missed or something like that, okay? So hopefully a chance for a lot of stamps right here. Okay, so starting off with Deanthea. Deanthea. Just launch us in. I don't want you to go through the whole thing, and I definitely don't want you to start by just giving me one of the angles, like an answer. Can you share with me what your group did first, or what you're thinking about?
So we said since sine is y,
Okay,
it would
good.
have to be, and it says greater than 0, it has to be on the top part of the circle.
Cool. Do you all agree y is positive up there?
Yeah.
Greater than 0? Okay. Cool. Someone else? Keep adding on. Christina?
Then since cosine is negative, it will be the second quadrant because cosine is negative.
Cool. So cosine is x is negative on this side, but we said it also has to be up there, so it'd have to be in the second quadrant right here because cosine would be positive there. Okay, so they are claiming that we know something about that we're in the second quadrant. Sandy, do you agree or disagree with them? Agree. And can you continue then? If you agree, what did y'all do next, or what did you end up with?
We ended up with negative 210 degrees and
Okay, I'm gonna pause on any explanation. I'm gonna put an S for Sandy. Sandy's vote is that we got negative 210 and 135. Interesting. Someone else share why they know those work, or why maybe they didn't have one of those if one of them you didn't include. Melanie?
So we can choose multiple ones or just one?
It could be any, all, none, any of them go. So what did y'all say? Which one do you agree with?
135.
Okay, I got another vote for 135. Anyone else in here say 135? Do we feel good about that one? Okay, so that one is definitely in quadrant 2. Cool. But we kind of got this thing because Melanie thought maybe we could only circle 1, so is that the only one y'all had? Okay, cool. And then for some reason Sandy's like thrown in negative 210 here. So let's kind of see if she's right or not. So someone at a different table, I don't think I've heard from Brandon's table or Nen's table or Jamie Lynn. Do y'all agree or disagree with the negative 210 and why? Brandon, what do you think?
I agree with it because it is in quadrant 2. If you want to think about it in positive degrees, you would just have to subtract that from 360.
Okay, so remember how we said we can add full circles to negative ones to make them positive and like see if we like them better? And what angle is that, Brandon? Did you do that?
Well, I think it's like
150?
150.
Yeah. Okay, so that means that negative 210 is coterminal with 150. So if you're looking for where is negative 210, it's not going to be the same place as positive 210, right? And so we have to do some math here, and we figure out it's the same spot as 150, which 150 is over here. So that looks pretty good, right? Okay. Did you have another way to think about it too?
What do you mean by that?
I think, well, just the way you were like describing it when you said if you want to find a different angle. Did anyone think about like, okay, so going positive would be opening up this way, right? So if I go negative 210, it would just be going backwards 210. That's another way to think about it. So you would be going 180 this way plus a little bit more, and you'd be in quadrant 2 going backwards 210 degrees. Okay, but since our circle isn't written in degrees that way, that might kind of like throw some people off. If you want to just find a coterminal angle, you can do that. Okay, all right, so we end up with Sandy is correct, 2 of them. So if you only had 1 of them, then make sure now you have the second one. Now that we've discussed it as a group, we got both angles. We're going to turn now to some of these statements, like I said, that we see a lot, where you have to decide which ones are true and which ones are false based off of the quadrant you're in, and thinking about negatives, positives, what we know about x and y and sine and cosine. So I'm going to let you discuss this one with your tables as well. Then I'm going to call on 4 people to share out. And then after that, just so you know, we're going to do the bottom one independently. So this is kind of your last chance